Hey guys, I'm Brad,
And I'm Aaron.
and you're listening to The Musial Suspects. Don't laugh.
I'm not laughing.
You know, guys, one of these times we're going to get a camera going, and on YouTube we're going to have a video, not just a picture, and you'll get to see us dancing,
Because that's what all of you want. I can feel it.
we got rhythm, and we look good. We got some spectacular beards going on. Combine that with some fantastic dancing, and this podcast is going to be bouncing.
Word.
All right, so we are back for I guess this is the 4th episode now, isn't it?
Yup.
I am super excited about this episode. So Aaron, why don't you just go ahead and plug the social media so everybody knows what we're all about, and
Right on.
that
Yep.
way we can get there.
So you can find us, the Musial Suspects, on Facebook and Twitter. If you go on Twitter, it's at SuspectsMusial. I wanted to get the Musial Suspects, but like I've said before, it's been taken. I need to find whoever did it, and I will kill them. I'm just kidding. But and then on Facebook, if you just search the Musial Suspects, we're right up there at the top. You should be able to find us pretty easily. And then also, if you want to listen to our episodes on iTunes, feel free to look us up on there, the Musial Suspects. Unfortunately, we're kind of in the middle of the pack when it comes to searching that, even though none of the titles above us have the Musial or Suspects in their title, but it's fine. It's whatever. But then you can also find us on SoundCloud, and all that stuff works. SoundCloud, right now, I think we're right at the very top. So just search the Musial Suspects, and bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yep. Oh, so since we're on the social media thing, one of my friends sent me this tweet that he saw. He screen capped it, and basically it's this guy. His name's Cardinal70 at C70. He tweeted us out. He said, "I haven't had a chance to listen to see how good they are, but this is an incredible name for a Cardinals podcast." So Cardinal70, thank you for the shout out.
You're the best, man.
You are, and I like to believe that this podcast is as good as the name.
Ooh.
But if not, to
deal
each
with
his
it.
own. But hey, shout out to him. All right, so I got an idea.
I'm pretty sure I replied back to that tweet and said, "Oh shucks,
Yeah.
kissy face."
I'm
He
very uncomfortable with that.
He hasn't replied. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure he unfollowed. It's fine.
Unfollow. So, one of the things that I had this idea. All right, so full disclosure, when Aaron approached me about doing this podcast, I was like, "Oh, we should call it the Musial Suspects." So I get these weird ideas. All right, I'm the dreamer, and Aaron really just takes everything and just puts it together. So I had this other idea for this segment, and I think we're gonna try it today. It's going to be called Turn 2.
Word.
So what Turn 2 is going to be is basically 2 just quick oddball things that we noticed or picked up on. It could be something funny, could be something aggravating, but it's just 2 things. We're going to hit them real quick, and then we'll move on to the meat of our podcast. But the first thing that I want to hit in Turn 2 is Yadi. Wow.
Yep.
Okay, so the current
You think Jordan Hicks owes him lunch and dinner?
and lunch
For a while.
and dinner again. Yeah, for a month. His entire IR stint, yeah, Jordan Hicks is buying him food.
Might as well.
You're
Making that big league money now, boy.
Yadi is a tough guy, but then when I read the article and the way that they described it, as a guy, you start learning code words whenever you're doing it. So things like pelvic injury in the groin area. And then what was the medical term that they said he had? A traumatic
hematoma.
A traumatic hematoma.
This has nothing to do with what happened to Yachty, but I saw a tweet and someone was like, "Well, what does that even mean?" And then someone commented, "It's no, for real. This is pretty legit." It's my dog was diagnosed with the same thing. It was called a traumatic hematoma, and it was on its ear, and they said that it swole up to about 3 or 4 inches and was all big and puffy and painful. It's so imagine that on Yachty in the groin area.
Yeah,
And
groin area. This
Picture
is
why he needed surgery.
Yeah. Well, isn't a hematoma is a big blood blister kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
It's basically a bunch of. It's like a mixture of that and a bruise, basically. Just a lot of burst blood vessels.
Yeah.
And in the groin area, probably pretty painful.
Yep. So kids, wear your cups, and even then, it won't matter.
Yep.
you know, especially if it's up from a fastball from the current major league leader in fastest fastball. Which that one, I
Yep.
wonder where it fell on the scale because it had to been up there because it's
It
like
better be number one. Because
don't
I don't
you
think Yadi wants to go down any differently for like the number 4 fastest
Right.
pitch. Like no, it better be number 1. He did throw at least 2 or 3 more 102 mile an hour that I saw recently. So
well
he's up there.
Here's the thing. It's like that video of when Matheny got hit in the face.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like how could any catcher ever be as tough as this? I think this one counts.
Yeah, I think it's up there.
This
I
is
mean,
right there.
He was clearly in pain, but
Did I go down? Like at that point, you know, you're down. It's not an if you're gonna go down. It's just you guys don't have a choice. We're down. That we're out. All right, so that was the flip to second, and now on to first. All right, so like I said, this would be something that would irritate me. And oh my gosh, ESPN and their love affair with the Cubs. But not just that. Specifically, I was listening to the I don't remember which game it was. Second game?
I think so. Yeah, I think
it was the night game. It was the third game. It was Sunday night baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex Rodriguez, Jessica Mendoza, and Matt Vasgersian, I think, were the announcers.
I'm 90% sure that's who they were. We were talking about this before, and we were trying to figure out who it was, and we remember A-Rod, and then I was like, I really hope it's these other two. And it was a girl and a guy, and I'm pretty sure it was those two. But
so like A-Rod, one heck of a ball player. One heck of a ball player.
I'd be a heck of a ball player too. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
No. Well, I'm not going there. But what, like,
they wanted the Cubs to win so bad.
It's not so much that. We'll get to that. But like the first thing I want to touch on is like the things that he would comment on, and I quoted one here, and basically like, and those of you who watch the game will probably remember this. He goes, that Matt Schwarber, he is born for hitting. He's 25. He's from Ohio, and he can talk about hitting all day.
Yep.
Right?
Congratulations.
Wait,
man.
hold on. Let me try this because I can do this. At Brad Range, he's made for hitting. He's 35. He's from Belleville, and he can talk about baseball all day. Now, both of those statements are equally true. But neither one of them proved the initial statement.
Like, that's nothing to do with it.
Like, because I'm not a Cubs fan. Matter of fact, I loathe the Cubs, but whatever. I'm man enough to admit that I can't hit anywhere, and I will never achieve what Schwarber has already achieved in his career, even though he's like young and is just getting started.
Yeah.
I will never get anywhere close to where he is at this point. As a matter of fact, I will never get anywhere as close as where he was when he was like in high school.
But I feel like the fact that he's 25 and from Ohio means absolutely nothing in terms of his hitting ability.
Nor does it mean he can talk about hitting all day.
Nope.
Because I could jabber on about hitting. It doesn't
mean I can hit.
Doesn't mean I can do it. Like, I can look at a guy, I can understand what he's doing, and I'm like, yeah, all right, understanding, knowing, and doing are two very different things.
See,
so
it reminds me of that. You know those random commercials that you'd hear on? I always heard them on like the country music radio. It was like the Real Men of Genius commercials for whatever beer. It reminds me of the one where it's like, they say those who can't play, coach. They say those who can't coach, yell 30 rows back, shirtless, yelling obscenities. And it's like...
I was about to say that's me. It's like, nah, I always wear my shirt and I don't use obscenities. But
yeah, but it's like, just because you play doesn't mean like you can really talk about it. I saw, because they had the rain delay and they were talking about, it's like, oh yeah, A-Rod had a chance to sit down with Chris Bryant. They were just going over some different hitting techniques, and I'm like, yeah, he didn't sit down with any of the Cardinal players, did he?
No.
They were in Busch Stadium, man.
Which is like the second half of
Come
this.
on,
yeah,
bud.
This is like the second half of the whole comment. Or the second half of this play at first here on the turn two. I've never seen a perfect seal in my life. You know, I've seen some pretty good seals.
Yeah.
But Sunday night, I witnessed a perfect seal, and it was ESPN's lips on the Cubs' butt.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, like, I think I told you they're going to need a crowbar to separate their lips from their butt after the game.
Yeah, I mean, and you're not wrong. Because if you listen to the game, like, at this point, I had gone to bed. I was tired. I had things to do. But I was looking forward to seeing what happens in the morning, and it was just like, oh, the Cardinals won. I was like, heck yeah! But
Right.
I saw I saw the highlights of the game, and it showed the Fowler home run. And right before the Fowler home run, you hear A-Rod, and he's talking. He's like, oh, put him away here, and then cracks the home run.
Like super neutral, right?
Yeah, like clearly don't want to pick a side here, but it was the whole
You know what
game
it
they were talking
reminded me
about the
of?
Cubs.
You know what it reminded me of? A bunch of starry-eyed preteen girls at a One Direction concert.
I mean, might as well be.
So, anyway, now that we've got that off the chest and we've turned to, let's get into this homestand, because there was a lot of things that I liked and a lot of things I didn't.
Yeah.
So, first of all, to sweep the Cubbies, woo, way to go! I was super excited about that. We were way off on our predictions.
No, I picked 2 or 3. I was right there.
I picked 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I picked
that we'd lose in the last game, and we
I
almost
also-
did.
And I also
for
said
different
that
reasons.
I also said that Walker would have a clunker, and he didn't. He pitched a pretty good game. So the thing is 2 of those wins were real gutsy, extra inning walk off home run wins. I was actually in bed watching, kind of coming in and out of consciousness. I woke up, when I heard something about Baez hitting a home run, so I saw the replay of that, and then I kind of like rolled over, and then when I rolled back over, Fowler was up. I had no idea what the situation was. As I was watching the replay, it's like, turns out he was down to his last strike and all this other stuff, but he hits that ball, and like, I like Jason Hayward until he made that comment about the Cubs having more promise than the Cardinals, and he
I
saw
thought it was so funny when he mentioned that, because he's like, oh, I just really like the youth of the organization compared to the Cardinals, and it's just like, it's not that different, bud.
Well, he had such a bad game defensively.
For-
That's a real bad game for Jason Hayward.
Oh yeah,
But-
that botched line drive earlier in the game was what cost the game.
Oh, that's another thing to point out about ESPN. On that line drive,
They were
okay,
like, oh, it's okay. He probably got it in the lights
got
or
it in
something.
the lights.
I'm like,
So
get
he
outta
lowered
here.
his eye level to the level of the ball looking into the stands. There's no way that angle works where he loses it in the lights. You usually have to look up to lose it in the lights. Either the ball knuckled or he just misplayed it.
Yeah.
Or maybe he lost it in one of the white shirts in the crowd. All 3 of those things are possible. In the lights, no. You're just making excuses for him because he's supposed to be a stud. Now, when this ball skipped off the top of the wall and went out of the park, and I just got to see the slow motion reaction of Jason Hayward and how he didn't react to it, it's just made my soul smile a little bit.
I think Jason Hayward is a good ball player in terms of his defensive ability. As a hitter,
Not so much.
he shows promise, but he's never been like an elite talent.
Now,
But whenever the Cardinals, because he picked the Cubs over the Cardinals, but apparently the Cardinals made a pretty comparable offer to him. Why? He had his best offensive season was with us. Look it up.
Oh,
And his
absolutely.
best offensive season was okay.
well, I mean, at least he got a World Series win, I guess, by doing
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
so that
which is
first
great,
year,
but-
that first year he wasn't wrong, but
I mean, yeah, he got the World Series out of it, but for crying out loud, he didn't get him there.
look, and if you want to sign with the Cubs, sign with the Cubs. Do not spit in
Yeah,
our
don't
eye
start-
after you leave.
Don't start talking crap. I did see something though with Michaelis, because he made the first start in the Cubs series, and
Another
saw
gem.
of course. What else did
Do you want to change the Waka for Cy Young to Michaelis for Cy Young?
No. I think Walker's doing fine. I posted a tweet though, because ESPN has their Cy Young predictor, and it takes account wins, ERA, strikeouts, all sorts of crap. It'll count for saves, so there are relievers that potentially pop up. And in the top 10 for the National League, there were
Right.
4 Cardinals:
Yeah.
Martinez, Michaelis, Bud Norris, and Waka.
Waka.
Because they had it helped though, because they had the 12-point victory bonus, which means that your team is currently in the lead in their division.
Yeah. But
Because
still.
they tend to give it out to, because if you're on the last place team and you have a good year, they're not necessarily going to like throw a Cy Young at you.
And-
They
and-
want to give you a Cy Young because you helped your team do something.
Right. But
So-
at the same time, you say the 12-point victory bonus, but there's not a team in the majors right now that wouldn't take one of those 4 guys. Right? I mean, if you're any of those teams, you're like, sure, I'd take a Bud Norris right now. You
Yeah.
know? So again, gutsy effort. 5-0 against the Cubs this year, I think.
5-1.
No, because the one got rained out.
No, it was originally a 3-game series. One got postponed, but they made up one of the games in the series. They split the first series.
Oh, they
1-1.
split them, so 5
Yeah.
and 1.
Yeah, so or 4-1.
4-1 against the Cubbies.
Which I'm fine with.
Eat that,
considering
baby
we
bears.
were 5-14 last year.
Right. So
Far
we've
doing
almost matched our total.
Yeah, so far we're doing better against most of the teams in our division. That Pittsburgh series still kind of sucks because we were 0-3 against them. But last season against Cincinnati we were 10-9. This year we're 7-0. Last year against the Cubs 5-14, and now we're 4-1. So we're on our way.
So we're
in some respects.
We're riding high, right?
Yep.
And we're flying good, and everything's looking great. And we come out of this series sweeping the Cubs. You know, it's like, yep, here's where we're going to launch off from. And then we ran into the pitching juggernaut that is Francisco Romero.
Well, to be fair, what did we say last time?
Oh, if it's an unknown
if
pitcher,
no one's ever seen him, we do so good.
right? And he's like a rookie, right? Because
that was like his second or third career start.
He's number 77. You know, he didn't get on the team soon enough to get a lower number. But I did pull up the stats. He has 2 games started.
Yep.
His win-loss is 2-0. Get this. His ERA is 0 with 14 strikeouts and a 1.11 whip.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He was he's the Twins' top prospect.
That's also his career stats.
Yeah, no, this was not the start against the Cardinals, but his first start earlier this year was his major league debut. So that the game against the Cardinals was his second career start in the majors.
Okay.
He's the Twins' top prospect. So apparently he's pretty good. But just to point out, you remember when we traded Alcantara for Ozuna?
Sure.
He was like our number 8 prospect, and at the time, whenever we traded him, he became Miami's number 1.
Yeah.
So take that with a grain of salt. Just because he's
right.
Minnesota's top prospect doesn't mean he's like an absolute stud, but he looks
he's the
good.
best guy in the farm system. Well, he's looked good in both of his starts.
Yeah, I can't really say that I blame the Cardinals, but I mean, I would have liked at least something out of it. I mean, DeYoung was fantastic. 3 of the Cardinals' 4 hits were from DeYoung.
Yeah.
The entire game, I was telling Jessica, I'm like, well, DeYoung's having a great game. Everyone else, I don't know.
Yeah.
Bader made a couple good defensive plays, but he's been doing that all year. He leads the majors in like expected catch difference, like as opposed to because coming into that game, his expected catch rate for all the balls that were hit to him was an 82%.
Right.
But his actual catch rate was 95.
Right.
And he leads the major leagues in catch rate plus.
Right.
There's a lot of random stats like that I like.
Like, I don't know how these things float around in your head and you come up with them.
It's kind of weird. If I do have a weird photographic memory when it comes to random stuff like that, and if I think it's interesting enough, I can usually recall it, like the whole chase percentage from Michaelis. So that's 40.4% coming into that game.
So Aaron dives into stats like, I don't know, Scrooge McDuck into the money bin.
You want to hear something?
An old school.
You want to hear
reference for
something
y'all
else
out there.
that's pretty great? The infield for the Cardinals, I'm pretty sure, leads the National League in defensive runs saved.
Yeah.
And that's including a -2 performance from first base. So third base, second base, and shortstop are killing it. And Colton Wong, I'm pretty sure, like leads the major leagues in defensive runs saved.
Well, and you know what? Let's be fair to DeJong. I don't think he's a bad shortstop.
Oh, he was throwing bullets at shortstop. He was chest right here. I was like, yep, that's a stud right there.
I know people were doubting his shortstop abilities. Like, well, he's really there because of his bat. Well, they're probably right. But at the same time, he's not bad.
No, he's a very decent shortstop. I mean, not very decent. He's
solid.
I need better vocabulary.
He's very decent.
He's very decent. It's like regular decent, but very. It's just so good. But no, he is a good shortstop. I think his range suffers a little bit. Like, I don't think he's like ridiculously fast. He's quick enough. He has a good enough range, but he's got a pretty solid arm and a pretty accurate arm. Mm-hmm. When you put all those together, I'm okay with that.
Right. You know, and if he were an offensive, or if he was a defensive dynamo and an offensive dud, people would be having a heart attack. I mean, think back to Brendan Ryan. That dude could play him some defense, but he didn't know which end of the bat to swing.
Oh my gosh, I remember some article I read like years ago I guess Brendan Ryan was like taking a cruise,
Mm-hmm.
and some Cardinal fans like recognized him, and they were just talking to him, and it was just like, and they started bringing up like his errors, and it's just like, oh man, like, so what was up with like the 9 errors last season? He's like, I only had 7.
Right.
It's like, ooh, rough, but
Now, I think the deal with him was he wasn't a good clubhouse guy.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, that was kind of the whole thing with Cosmo.
Pete Cosmo,
Cosmo was a great shortstop.
Mhm.
Defensively, he was fantastic, but when you hit like 225,
right.
eh.
Well, I think Brendan Ryan hit worse than that. I think he was like a 200.
Yeah, he was. It was pretty bad.
But, I mean,
he was a good defender.
He could flash the leather. He was exciting to watch play.
I've been
defense.
saying for years, I would love for them to go after like Andrelton Simmons.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. That's Gold Glove level material at
Mhm.
shortstop,
Mhm.
and he's starting to figure it out on offense. But I will take Paul DeYoung.
Right.
The only way that
Absolutely.
I would want Paul DeYoung to move is if we pick up like a premier third, like shortstop, and move him to third base, because that's his primary position.
Right. Okay. Here's what I want to see him move. I want to see him move his strikeout numbers down.
Oh yeah, it's like 30%. It's pretty bad.
I mean, like,
If I remember correctly from Friday's game, it was like 30.4.
oh, you're such a nerd.
It was really bad though.
So you do the stats, I do the eye test, and we're coming up with the same thing. He swings and misses way too much.
And he does what most of the Cardinal players do. If you watch another first pitch strike, I'm going to hit you. It
Yeah.
blows my mind. I saw it from, I think it was either Ozuna or Carpenter from that game twice. No, it was Carpenter, because I remember I got very pissed. And I
But
remember
that's what
looking.
Carpenter does.
But yeah, but he watched, in 2 of his strikeouts, he watched 4 strikes. 4. So out of the 6 potential strikes, 4 of them, he just was like, nah,
It's not for me.
bruh.
Did you
Those
not-
other 2 weren't either.
Did you not read the what is it, a poem or the short
It-
story
you know-
of the mighty Casey?
To be fair, though, it might have actually been Ozuna. I don't remember which one, but it was like the first 2 at-bats were strikeout looking. And I'm like, I'm going to hit you.
Yeah.
I just
So-
hate it whenever the pitch comes in and they immediately start walking to the dugout. Like, oh, I knew I should have swung at that.
Well,
like, yeah, I did too, stupid.
Here's the thing. I know it's common baseball knowledge that you take the first pitch.
No, it's not.
I know that's I know that's like the common everything as far as that goes. But
Well, let me just be the first to
thing
say
is,
it shouldn't.
you know, they used to tell you not to have an uppercut swing.
Yeah, now everyone.
Now everything is all about launch angle. So maybe the game has evolved. I mean, especially if you're going to be like, you know, it used to be like on your third strike, you shorten your swing up and you try to put the ball in play. Nuh-uh, these guys are swinging from their heels, trying to knock the ball out of the park every time. Fair enough. The game has evolved.
Yeah.
That's what they do. But maybe your approach to hitting should change too. So maybe you should get 3 good licks at it rather than just, you know,
Right,
down.
you can't put a ball in play if you don't swing.
Because if I'm a pitcher and I know that I can drop a strike in there, you know, it's like if I'm going to throw one pitch and I get away with a fastball down the middle, it's going to be the first pitch.
Pretty much.
So why not force these pitchers to think a little bit differently? You know, put the onus on the pitcher to pitch back. You know, maybe the out percentage is higher or whatever, but a ball in play has a better chance of doing something than swinging through it or nothing or doing
not
nothing
swinging
with
at
it.
all, yeah.
Right. So, you know, so they had a bad home thing, and shout out to Jake Odorizzi, the hometown guy. He pitched a pretty good game against the Cardinals.
Yeah, which I mean, again, I don't want to necessarily throw it back to like the pitchers we never see, but we don't really ever.
Well-
We've only seen him twice,
Yeah.
and that's through his like whole career.
Right.
But bright side, at least he had some family in town.
Right,
you know
right.
what I'm
He
saying?
had some family in town. So here's a cool story. I don't know if you know this or not, but you're a Muscuda grad, and Jake went to Highland.
Yeah.
So Highland is one of Muscuda's rivals. I mean, the Highland
Especially
Muscuda,
in football.
yeah, the Highland Muscuda
that's
football
always
game
our homecoming game.
is
Yeah.
always one. So that's my wife coming in, by the way. So I went to this game, and so anyway, Muscuda and Highland are battling. I think this is Odorizzi's junior year. And all of a sudden, it's down to the last play. Jake was a wide receiver. Quarterback does a bootleg out, to his right because he's a right-handed quarterback. He throws back across his body on a fade route to Odorizzi in the end zone. Kid jumps up, gets 1 foot down. The foot that comes down, he tears his ACL on the play, hauls the ball in, wins the game for him. So like when you watch him play in high school, he was an athlete. And so anyway, I was talking to somebody because I didn't know who he was at the time. Like, oh no, he's a big baseball stud. I hope he didn't ruin his career. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
He's doing fine. It looks like.
From what I heard, because they did talk about Odorizzi during that start. I got to see some of the game, but I didn't get to see all of it. When he came up for his first at bat against Martinez, they were kind of talking about him, being from the area, and I guess coming out of high school, he was one of the top hitters in the state as well. He wasn't just a pitching. He wasn't just a pitching prospect. He was a hitting prospect. But he had offers in college. And a lot of them wanted him to be a pitcher, but did he sign out of high school or did he go to college?
I think he signed out of high school.
From what they were saying, I guess
Tampa
they were,
Bay, wasn't it?
Yeah, they made him a pretty good offer, so he took it as opposed to going to college because I
can't
believe he
blame
was going to like Louisville or something to play ball.
I mean, I can't blame him, and I wouldn't blame anybody that if they have a chance to come out of high school and go into the pros, go ahead and go pro.
If you have a good enough signing bonus, put it in the bank.
Right.
If you get out, you can use that money to go back to school.
Be smart with your money. College will be there. That'll be your degree, but your body may not be. I get that. I understand that. But like the thing is like when I also saw him pitch one time a home game against Mascuda, and it was so bizarre for me because this is the most people I've ever seen at a high school game. Yeah, and you remember how Mascuda's baseball field used to be? How it was like right behind the school and all that other stuff. So all these weird looking dudes, in button up shirts are behind home plate. So anyway, Mascuda. Highland comes up to bat, they do the thing. Mascuda gets out of the inning. Then Odorizzi comes in to pitch. And it was so surreal because every one of those dudes reached down into their bags. They pulled out their radar guns and their notepads. And every pitch is writing notes and shooting radar and writing notes and shooting radar. And I was like, man, this is insane.
Yeah.
So good for him for having a good game.
Yeah, whenever I played at Mascuda, there were a couple guys that were a year or two ahead of us that I thought were really good. And like even in conference, they were really good. And they didn't really get much buzz from colleges or from scouts, and it just was like really weird to me. And it's I mean, I've always wondered like where you have to cross that line to start getting attention, because I mean, these guys weren't like blowing it by at 90 mile an hour, but I mean, there's not many 17-year-olds that do.
Right.
So, I mean, they're 84, 85. I mean, you get them in the weight room and develop them. I mean, I'm pretty
sure, though, he was up in the 90s.
From what I could tell. But, I mean, even now, he's not throwing 98. He's still he's consistent where he's at, though.
Right.
Hypo.
For those of you who can't hear, that's my dog, and he likes to walk around and make loud noises with his toenails.
I mean, don't walk on the carpet that's quiet.
Right.
Just
well,
go on the
they
tile.
just got back from a walk, and things get hot, and he likes to lay
it happens, man.
Spread out onto the linoleum floor because it's cold, and then in a little bit he'll move, and then a little bit more he'll move. So it's kind of fun to watch my dog. You guys would all love my dog, by the way. So anyway, with that being said, Minnesota series, disappointment.
A little bit.
Major disappointment. I mean, the pitching staff, I give the bullpen the benefit of the doubt because they were chewed up in that Cubs series.
Yeah, I mean, coming off of 2 extra inning games,
so let's say
didn't help.
Let's say that the starting pitching wasn't too bad. I mean, Carlos Martinez, I guess you could kind of call his a clunker.
I mean,
by his standard.
I mean, there were errors. He only gave up 2 earned.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 runs total, but 2 earned through I think 5 1/3.
Right.
His ERA jumped up to a just absolutely ridiculous 1.6.
A poor guy.
Darn.
What will he ever
leads
do?
the National League in ERA. What a problem to have.
Did you say 1.6? Hard to believe though that we're coming up on the anniversary of Bob Gibson's 1.12.
That's ridiculous.
1.12.
Through a
when was
season.
the last time? When was the last time you've heard of a pitcher having the type of season that they said, you know what? We need to change the rules.
Yeah.
So because of Bob Gibson, and don't let anybody tell you any different, because of Bob Gibson's 1.12, they lowered the mound.
And guess what? He was still pretty freaking good.
Right. So I'm kind of curious of where these guys would be. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't make a difference because the game's changed so much since then that it's apples to oranges. I talked to a kid in class one day, and he was like, LeBron James the greatest of all time. If you put him head to head with Michael Jordan,
You're right,
he
because
beat
Michael
him.
Jordan's like 50-something years old.
Well, the thing is Michael Jordan in his prime and LeBron
They're
James
two
in his prime.
different players.
Two different players, two different games, two different NBAs even.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Completely
Like, it wouldn't
different
even
stylistic views,
Right.
like all sorts
Right.
of different stuff getting in the
So,
way of that.
anyway, let's not get off on basketball. But
No, I don't-
you know,
I'm not.
that's what I'm getting at is the major leagues now compared to what it was when Bob Gibson pitched is a completely different game. So I don't
Yeah.
see how you could ever like compare them.
Yeah, it's tough to compare across generations because
Right. And
know.
like Babe Ruth's home runs, and part of this, they didn't play as many games, and just all these different things. So if you guys ever get into an argument, just start from that premise that
Yeah.
they weren't playing the same people, they weren't playing the same type of game. You know,
I mean, you don't know how the overall talent was.
Right.
Like, maybe the overall talent back then was better, but the premier talent now is better. Like, you don't know
right?
it because you can't put them
You
together.
don't know
and
about the quality of
legitimately-
the
Yeah, you can't legitimately like quantify that into
Right.
like, oh well, this guy is
You know.
definitely better than this guy. Like, it's all subjective.
Well,
It's
and,
all opinionated.
and then you think about too, like travel. Cardinals getting ready to
Yeah.
head out to San Diego. They're going to be on a plane, and they're probably there already.
Diego.
Right? They're
Yeah.
probably there already,
Most
getting
likely.
comfortable. But in the
I'm
60s, were
definitely
they on a
not-
plane or were they on a bus getting in
Oh, yeah.
4 hours before game time? So it's just
It
different.
reminds me
era,
of
you can't-
Major League when they kept like screwing them over, and now they've got like the really crappy plane, and
Right,
then they got
right.
the bus,
and they
then-
keep winning.
Yeah, they're like, we will win.
You know what else reminds me of Major League? The way Kroenke handled the Rams. But we're not going to
Yeah.
talk about that.
That's fine.
We're not going to talk about it.
That's
I'm
fine.
bitter.
They're doing
bitter
great
and,
now.
And I don't like Dan Kroenke so much that I was happy when the Predators knocked the Avalanche out, even though he's not the owner, but he is the owner, but he's not the owner.
But he might as well be.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So anyway, what are you looking forward to in the San Diego series?
I'm looking forward to waking up the next day to find out what happened.
Oh,
because,
really? Because it's
I
Altuve
mean-
for you.
I mean, the game
get to
time
Betty Bye.
starts tomorrow at 10:10.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I'm
stay
like-
up and watch it.
I might. I
Look-
probably will. I'll just
look.
go downstairs and go click.
I have.
Especially because Michaelis is starting game one against his former
I
team.
need you to be up. I need you to be up, so because I like
Because
texting
we have to
you.
rant.
Right. It's so fun. Okay, so you guys don't know this, but like we go back and forth, and our comments are so sarcastic and angry because when the game happens, we just allow ourselves to
Yeah.
ride the motion and emotion, and that's what makes the games fun for me, at least.
Yeah.
I like to complain. I like to think they're never going to make the playoffs when they're doing bad, and I like to think we're the greatest team on earth whenever we're doing great.
Oh, me and my girlfriend had a similar conversation because it was really funny because she was telling me about she was telling me how she really enjoys like reading my articles and stuff like that because she says that I maintain a positive outlook regardless of the situation. Like even if we have some clunkers, I'm still rather optimistic,
Right.
and I'm like, and I was like, oh, okay, like I didn't really realize that I had that particular viewpoint, but I guess in the same time I kind of did. But after the game, we left during the seventh inning on Friday.
I never leave a game early.
It was a combination of the fact that they were sucking and the fact that my girlfriend didn't want us to have to spend like $20 to get food there, and she was hungry.
That's fair.
So
I mean,
the only thing we get there is nachos, but when they cost like $10,
Oh,
their
dude.
nachos are fantastic.
Do you know about the
though.
home plate nachos? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so those of you who don't know about the home plate nachos at Busch Stadium, you can get what, pork or chicken,
I think
and they
so,
got
yeah.
some barbecue on them, and oh my gosh, this is a highlight of the Busch Stadium experience. If you don't get a chance to go, if you go to Busch Stadium, it's on the it's behind home plate, but it's kind of like on the
Yeah.
first base side on the
Yeah, I
main
think-
level.
Yeah, that's
Like if you go to the Cardinal store and you walk down the ramp and you keep walking, and it'll bend around.
yeah. It's near home plate.
It'll
yeah.
be right in that area, just after you get around home plate from the third base side. So it's on the first base side. You guys got to go check it out.
Yeah.
Tell them we sent you, and you will get no discount whatsoever. And they'll probably look at you and say, "Who?"
Yeah, pretty much. But
But
so
go and say we
were-
sent you anyway
yeah,
until
but we were-
everybody's asking.
But we were leaving, and I texted you a little bit about it as well, talking about it's like, well, it doesn't help when 3 of your 4 hits come from the same guy,
Right?
and so
Can't string together hits and manufacture runs with.
yeah. So I was kind of ranting about that with her, and I was like, yeah, it's just a little frustrating because it was our first game of the year that we were able to go to. It's like, I really wish that we would have scored more than, I don't know, 0. Like,
Right.
you can at least do something. So it was unfortunate. And, when I first got the tickets, the scheduled starter was Carlos Martinez.
Mhm.
So then when it was John Gant, I was also a little disappointed
It's like,
because
ah,
I was like, that's not the same guy. But again, it wasn't really that big of a deal. But I started ranting to her because I told her, I was like, well, I'd rather get all this energy out now before I decide to write about something. I'd rather just get all that negative crap out so that I can look at it from a more neutral standpoint.
Right.
Like, well, it wasn't good, but again, on the bright side, it's good that Paul DeYoung got 3 hits because it's
Right.
better than 3 strikeouts.
right.
So
Right.
I guess I have to have a little bit of moment to rant and get off topic before I can really, look at it from a better viewpoint because
Yeah.
when we were leaving that game, I was pretty mad just because
They
we
weren't
didn't
going to make
do
the playoffs
anything.
when you were leaving that game.
No,
were they?
they were fine. They were still leading the division. But it was just really annoying. I was like, if I was going to get free tickets, I would have rather gotten free tickets to a win. But again, they were
those
free.
those
So
were those tickets you got from Arch City?
yeah,
Nice.
we got there a little bit early. I was wanting to get there earlier than that, but we got there a little bit early and caught the back end of the Twins batting practice. So
Okay.
that was kind of cool. I like going as early as possible because I love catching batting practice just so I can catch a ball just to end up probably giving it to a kid because
Yeah.
I'm 23 and look
Yeah,
homeless. So
Yeah,
I don't
so,
deserve a free baseball.
So I got a batting practice home run ball.
Mm-hmm.
That same night, I was actually my friend was up from Atlanta, and this is pretty cool too. That night that I got that home run ball, we went up there and over at Ballpark Village they have the Fox Sports Midwest studio.
Yeah.
So this is pregame and all this other stuff. I'm walking around and I see this guy that I know, and this guy that I know is working in the studio doing like technical stuff. So I've got my picture with my friend from Atlanta. He's like, you want to come in? So we got to go in and see the studios. He's like, hey, you want your picture taken? We're like, yeah. Well, he's the technical guy, so he got to flip on all the lights and all this other stuff. So me and my buddy got our picture taken on the Fox Sports Midwest studios with the columns lit up with the two teams that were playing and everything. We look awesome. So,
cool.
My goal is to get that picture printed out and put it in a shadow box with the baseball on and all that other stuff. But so you said Michaelis is going first in the San Diego series.
Yep, you'll be going tomorrow.
Okay. And then who else do we have?
I have no earthly idea.
Really?
I'm really hoping my phone doesn't die. It's been on 1% for like half an hour,
So,
which is great. But as soon as I open ESPN, I feel like it's going to die.
Well, let me open my app too and see if we can't get there. But anyway, like Michaelis, if he continues to do what he's doing, I think they're going to be all right.
Oh, yeah,
know?
we'll be
Hopefully the offense wakes
stellar
up.
if that happens.
So tomorrow night it's Michaelis
And
against
I think-
Lyles.
yeah.
Then it's Weaver against Lauer. And then we've got Waka against Ross. And then I can't get to the fourth game.
So what I'm hearing is 3 names that I barely know.
Right. So this could be very bad.
Great. I know Ross. I think it's Tyson Ross.
Okay.
I believe it's either Tyson or Joe.
And
but
then-
I'm pretty sure they're brothers, and one of them plays for Washington.
And then they don't have anybody scheduled for the starting pitcher for
We
the
don't?
Cardinals. No,
Oh.
but the other guy's Richards. He's 1-5.
Clayton Richards.
He might be. It just says Richard.
Oh,
He's
oh
1-5
yeah,
with
that's
a
Clayton Richard.
he's 1-5 with a 5.72 ERA. But man,
That's
that
solid.
picture, he's got himself a nice.
He's
Nice
really
smile.
happy to be there.
Yeah.
I
mean, I would be too.
Yeah, I mean, you're still making that contract work.
So,
Looking forward to seeing
well,
Michaelis.
here's the thing. Like, you don't want to say it's you're still in May, but you don't want to say this is must win. But
against
you gotta
this team.
you gotta beat the teams that you gotta beat, right? Where's San Diego?
You
in the
need to take
standings
at
even?
least 3 of these.
Are they even that good?
No, they're like last in their division.
Well, I know that like everybody's upset with like Los Angeles because they're
No, Los Angeles is barely ahead of them.
they're struggling.
Yeah.
All aboard the struggle bus out there in LA. Yeah, okay, so San Diego is 13-24 and they're on a 2-game losing streak.
Word.
So you've got to take 3 of 4,
Yeah.
if not 4 of 4.
Mm-hmm.
Anything
I expect if that for that 4th game, it might be Wainwright coming back.
Yeah, they're probably on the wait and see with him.
Yeah, he's made at least 1 rehab start that I know of, and he pitched fine.
So I know that San Diego is a big ballpark.
How cool would it be though if you're like in Double-A for some random team and you get to face Adam Wainwright?
It's like, oh, check it out, it's
so
Adam
dope.
Wainwright. It's like before
that's
you
got to be the coolest
it's
moment
like you
ever.
go up to bat and you're like time out and you run out there to Waino and you get the selfie and then you
Selfie.
run back.
All right, I'm good now. It's like,
So
can I
anyway,
talk to you after the game?
so they need 3 of 4. Anything less
Yeah.
than that would be a disappointment. And
I
then
mean,
I think
I'm
anything
honestly,
less
I'll
than
be
a split.
I'd be fine if we split, but if we only take one game or if we get swept, oh man,
Yeah, a
that's
split
gonna
or a
be.
sweep, it would
If
be
we
an
get
abject
we
failure.
get swept, everyone on Twitter is gonna be like, nope, Matheny must be gone.
So yeah, I don't know if they don't get their offensive woes figured out, and I don't know, maybe like I'm not really sure what the role of the hitting coach is because he's like, what do? You go out there and you say hit better,
I mean, I can do that.
right?
Hit
But
the ball,
okay, so the ball comes in, and what you want to do is if the ball's a strike, you swing at it, and if
and
it's
if
not
it's
a
not
strike, you don't.
you don't swing at it.
No, I think a good hitting coach, their job is basically to analyze their hitters, know what their hitters are doing when they're doing it well, and when
Notice
they get away
if there's
from that,
differences, anything like that, so that
and
way
when they
they
get
can
away
fix
from it,
them.
and be like, hey, this is what you were doing when you were having success, and this is what you're doing now.
Yeah, and this is what
For
you're
example, all right, this is where I'm going to show he's 35 and he can talk about hitting all day. So this is what's going to make me a great hitter, A-Rod, all right, because I'm born in a state and I'm 35 and I can talk about hitting. All right, so I don't know if you noticed this about Jason Hayward's swing, but I always looked at him and it always looked like he was swinging weird, like he never had the good roll on the wrists. Every so often he had these swings where it's just like, what is that? Well, I got watching him, and they may have mentioned this too.
I think they did on ESPN. They
he
went.
rolls his top hand over. So like good hitting, if you guys are sitting at home right now, line your knuckles up. You want your knuckles lined up so that your wrists roll over. And that allows you when you swing to have a nice level swing and through the zone. Before he swings, Hayward rolls his hand in. All right? And for whatever reason, and he's a bad hitter. I mean, he has been a unsuccessful hitter, right? So whenever you swing like that, if you watch his swing, you can see it. His bat doesn't level straight out, and he doesn't make a straight plane from his shoulder down his arm to the point of contact. His bat kind of almost makes like a V. When it gets to his hands, the bat's up a little bit.
Yeah.
So you lose a lot of length.
Really awkward.
Oh yeah, and there's no way you can make good clean. And I was like, well, he's been doing that his whole life. Yeah, well, that's one of those things you want to fix.
I'm like, yeah, right? And if you notice, his entire career has been like
underperforming. Exactly.
Like maybe if you fixed it, don't fix it like when he leaves the Cubs.
You give me a ruler and 2 hours with Jason Hayward, and I'll fix his swing because I'll wrap his knuckles every time he wraps that hand around. Squack! Get it out.
You did it again.
I'm kidding. I wouldn't actually hit him. He's a very big man, and he'd probably beat me to death. But point being,
I mean, not accurately though. He'll probably strike out first.
Yeah, he might bludgeon me a whole bunch and miss my head because he's.
Gosh dang it!
Because he's not every time he hits me, he's like, if you line your knuckles up, you'd take me out on that swing.
It's like, hey, you'd take me out sooner if you lined it up, but it's fine.
But anyway, so I don't know what Mabry's approach is, but it ain't working because they're up and they're down, hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. I would rather have a warm to, I don't want to say lukewarm, but a good warm batting thing, and not have the hot streaks. Mm-hmm. To avoid the cold streaks, because then you don't waste good pitching performances.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
If you can average 4 or 5 runs a game, you're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, for sure.
Which the Cardinals probably do that, but they get all of them in like spurts. So anyway, so one of the things I want to see with the San Diego series is I want to see their offense, because San Diego's park, is it still Petco?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a big ballpark.
Yeah.
But it's got big gaps, which means that if you are hitting line drives, you can shoot the gap. It's a lot of outfield to cover. We have nice, fast outfielders. We have really good outfielders, actually. So we got nice, good gaps. Shoot the gaps. I'm looking for a lot of doubles and line drives out of this, Mm-hmm. But even if we have to do small ball, whatever. But I want to see the offense wake back up and kind of just keep it rolling.
Clearly, San Diego has not put it together in their really in the last few years. They've been pretty bad.
San Diego's a basement
they
dweller.
They got Eric Hosmer because that was going to put them over the hump.
They kind of do what Miami has done. It's like they'll just be absolute garbage, and all of a sudden they'll get a couple guys that are like really good. They'll put something together. They'll make a World Series run, whether they win or not. The next year they sell everyone.
And they're like, well, that sucked.
So it's like, hey, you know what? We got Ozuna and Stanton in the outfield, and rather than building on that, we're going to trade them away.
I mean, they didn't have any money.
What did they say? There was 5,000 people in the park the other night?
They've had pretty bad. They've had some pretty bad showings. I remember it was a few years ago. They were talking about this like one summer game that like I think they had like 680 people
my
there.
gosh.
I was like, I want to go to Miami. I could go sit wherever I wanted. Oh, what are you going to tell me? Oh, does someone sit here? I bet you it don't.
Right.
I bet you they don't.
Care. Look, it's going to look better on TV if I'm sitting behind home plate as opposed to nobody.
I remember when I went to see some AA games for North Little Rock. It was like the Angels organization at the time.
Right.
I think they're the Mariners now. But after like the fourth inning, they go on the intercom and they're like, if there are any seats that are closer to the field that have been that have not been taken, feel free to move down.
Mm-hmm.
And by like the fourth or fifth inning. So I remember we went to a day game, and they usually do it during day games because there's not that many people there.
Right.
And in Arkansas in July, it's 100 degrees out. So
Right.
there's not that many people anyway. So I remember I was with my grandpa, and they said that over the intercom, and I was like, can I go down to the like right along the foul line? Because I was just hoping to get a foul ball. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. Just meet me back up here. I was probably 14, 15.
Right.
And so I was like, heck yeah. So I went down there, and I think I ended up getting like 2 foul balls from one was hit into the stands.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 4 or 5 rows behind me, bounced off something, and then I got it. And then another one was like the final out, and someone threw it to me. And I was like, yeah. And I ended up getting them signed by random players later.
And
it was
so
great.
when you're, it's moments like that when you're a little kid that just make all the difference in the world. So
Yeah.
moms and dads out there, take your kids to the ballpark.
Yeah, I can't do that anymore. They're like, you're an adult. Shh.
I know, whenever I was little, like my heroes were like, this is going to show my age a little bit, but I really liked Jack Clark, Ozzie Smith. I remember when Okendo played.
Yeah.
Get this. I can't think of his name now. The guy that's catching for Yadi now.
Francisco Pena.
Francisco Pena.
His
I
dad.
remember Tony Pena playing.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I'm only 35, but this is kind of when my formative years were, and I wish that I could have gone to more ball games. Because I mean, you think about those. Ozzie Smith is one of the greatest shortstops of all time to have ever played the game.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see him do a backflip a couple times. I got to see Mark McGwire hit a home run. I got to see Sammy Sosa hit more home runs than Mark McGwire.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. But I mean, I was there when he hit 66.
That's pretty cool.
So, for your kids, I know it's expensive to take your kids to a baseball game, but take them to a baseball game because
It's really not even that bad anymore.
Well, and here's the other
Depending
thing too.
on where you want to sit. I mean, if
Well-
you go to the right games, I mean,
Here's where they'll get you is the
Yeah.
concessions.
yeah, that's why you don't eat there. But you can bring food and
Right.
food and
You
drinks
can bring
to
them
the game.
now. Dad, you don't have an excuse. This would be a great time of bonding for your kids. So take that time.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna start like bringing this bird in for a landing here. So a couple things that I want to talk about are the first thing I want to talk about is a couple weeks ago we talked about Albert Pujols and how he's I guess it wasn't even a couple weeks ago. It was maybe a week ago. He's closing in on 3,000 hits.
Yep.
Albert Pujols got his 3,000 hit, and my only regret about that is that he wasn't a Cardinal.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but hey, I still like the guy, still admire the guy. I get it. I know why he went out there and all
Yeah.
that other stuff. I get
It's
it.
because the Angels offered him $30 million more than we did.
Well, yeah, but when they adjusted, he would have made more money staying here. But he felt insulted that the Cardinals didn't, that they played the game. But the Cardinals did what the Cardinals do. So I understand why the Cardinals did what they did, and I
Yeah, he
get
was
why.
insulted the Cardinals played the game. They just offered you like $200 million.
Right, but it wasn't that they did it. It was how long it took them. Because they kept playing back and forth with them rather than just saying, "Hey, we're going to give you this." And I get it. The Cardinals got a franchise to look out for.
Here's the thing: they had the first look at him for how long, and they probably had a better idea than most other teams that he was probably getting on the decline.
Right.
I mean, and being on the decline meant in his last season he hit 299. But they could see it before everyone else that he's probably heading downward. He's probably his best
Right.
years are probably behind him, and he wants how many years and how much money?
Right. Well, and the
And-
thing is, too, to go to a team like the Angels, he has that chance to be a DH. He doesn't have to play
Yeah.
defense. Even though he wasn't a bad defender, he's a good defender.
Yeah, he's a good first baseman.
But I know he had all those issues with his foot and stuff like that. So whatever, I'm over it. I wish that he would have stayed. I'm sad that he couldn't stay, but whatever, I get it. So congratulations, Albert Pujols, on 3,000 hits. I'm glad I got to see some of them. I'm sure you are.
Yeah, I've seen a few home runs from Pujols. That was pretty cool.
But the other thing, then, and we're going to kind of shut her down with this one, but so I don't know if you guys have had a chance yet to see the video of the Cardinals and Piscotty, and how that whole deal went down. But for those of you who don't know, I think Danny Mac shared it on his Twitter. So if you guys haven't seen that video, you can find it. I'm sure you can.
It was like a Sports Center featured thing.
Right. So bring a box of tissues.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
It's a tearjerker. My wife, she didn't even see the video. She heard a description of the video and she started crying.
Yep.
So I haven't watched the video because I don't cry because I'm a man. But
I watched the video.
I may get a little choked up here. But anyway, for those of you who don't know, Stephen Piscotty was a Cardinals outfielder. He had just signed a big contract with the Cardinals, and last year his numbers were way, way down. Now,
And
here's
there's
the
a
thing.
reason for that.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Cardinals fans were getting on him and all this other stuff, and which ordinarily, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But we had no idea what was going on in the background and all that other sort of thing. But his mother was diagnosed with ALS last year, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, and it moved pretty fast.
Yeah, from what I saw, the doctors that were seeing her really hadn't seen a case that moved as quickly as that one.
And I can't imagine what it would be like to watch your mom get sick like that, because I love my mom.
And let alone being, 2,000 miles away.
Right. So this offseason, the Cardinals wanted to trade Piscotty to Oakland.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't, we're going to trade Piscotty to whoever. No, we're going to trade Piscotty to Oakland. Now, here's the thing
well, sometime last season, too, the Cardinals did approach Oakland to trade Piscotty, but Oakland turned it down because they liked the offer for New York. Because they originally tried trading, they used Piscotty as the main piece to trade for Sonny Gray.
Okay.
But then the A's took the offer from New York. But at that time, I don't know if it was as much of a deal involving his mom. I think it was probably put on the mindset of the Cardinals organization for a while. And so I think that's why in the offseason they definitely kept pushing it. But I think that was probably part of the reason why they tried doing it at sometime last year, because it was clearly affecting him being here. And so I think maybe it was like the first step into trying to figure something out.
But basically they had purpose that they were going to trade him.
Yeah.
And Oakland could have taken the Cardinals to the cleaners on this, and they didn't.
No, it was a fair offer from both sides.
They made a good trade. This is so refreshing to see in this world where everybody thinks that corporations are evil and all this other stuff and all this. But these two organizations got together and they did the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, I saw comments from John Mozeliak, and he was talking about how it's like, you have to understand that this is still a business, and so we did want to try to make sure that we got a baseball move out of it. But at the end of the day, you could see what kind of stuff Piscotty was going through, and we really wanted to try to make something happen to get him back home. So, I mean, there were a lot of people that were wondering on whether or not it was just a baseball move or whether it actually had anything to do with it. But you could tell from the organization and from what Piscotty has said that definitely played a part in it on getting him moved to Oakland. And I think that was a pretty classy move because, he just signed that extension. So he clearly at some point had wanted to stay here. But then with that going on, the Oakland A's now have a very team-friendly contract for a plus outfielder for years to come.
But anyway, I can't think of her name now.
Gretchen.
Gretchen Piscotty passed away.
Like a few hours after the Sports Center video had aired.
And the thing about the video was her favorite song. Well, it was his favorite song, wasn't it?
I think it was hers. Okay. I think it was like maybe it was a very family oriented too.
So anyway, they loved the song Amazing Grace, and the video kind of closes out with Piscotty playing the guitar and singing Amazing Grace to his mom, as she's in the bed, wasting away from this horrible disease. And I can't imagine what that would be like. But kind of to close our podcast out and as a tribute to Piscotty and Gretchen Piscotty, we kind of Aaron plays the guitar a little bit and he can sing. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn it over to him whenever he's ready, and he's going to play Amazing Grace, and we're gonna end our podcast with that. So this is for you, Stephen Piscotty, and in remembrance and honor of your mom.
Yep.
Okay. So he needs just a second.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. When we've been here 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now